Argentina's players have finally started talking, and having read every single one of these statements back to back, mate, I am genuinely sat here with my mouth open. Because not one of them has said the word sorry. Not one has mentioned the throat grab, the punches, the coaching staff member who threw a fist at an opponent. What they have said over and over again in almost identical language is the word honour, pride, humility, gracious. Let me take you through exactly what they said, because laid out one after another, this is one of the most shameless things I've ever seen. Quick reminder of what we're actually talking about here, in case you need it fresh. This is all after a final whistle, where Spain was celebrating. Molina punches Rodri's stomach. Paredes grabs Eric Garcia by the throat, then throws Gavi to the ground. Assistant coach Roberto Ayala throws a punch at Dani Olmo. FIFA has opened a full investigation. That's the incident every single one of these players has now had days to address. Not to mention the other games where controversial VAR decisions were made and studs were shown without any consequence. But what they came out to the public to say is the most disgusting thing possible. Let's start with Paredes, since he's the one who actually made the brawl the worst of all World Cup history. His first public words on Instagram were, "Thank you Argentina, I love you today and always." He goes on, heavy heart, chest full of pride, flying the flag at the very top once again. Thanks to everyone who was part of the team. Honour to be part of the best Argentine national team in history. That's the entire post. Genuinely not one word about grabbing a man by the throat in front of the whole planet. And then, days later, he actually sat down for a proper ESPN interview, his real chance to address it, and here is what he said. "If I listen to everything out there, I must be going crazy. Everything that was said before, during and after the World Cup." Sit with that for a second. 23 million people signing a petition to ban Argentina because of these attitudes. The world's press calling the brawl a disgrace. Every pundit from Rooney to Shearer lining up to call it out. In Paredes' own words, all of that is just noise he has to tune out to stay sane. Not I understand why people are angry. Not I regret it. Just, if I actually listened to any of this, I'd go mad. Of course you would, because you'd have to look at your own actions, which make anyone mad for sure. But there's more. It gets actually worse. But before we go any further, please do me a huge favour and subscribe and help this small channel grow. I appreciate your support. And then there's Enzo Fernández, the man whose red card left his team down to 10 men for half an hour of extra time. His post. As time goes by, you realise there is something much bigger than just a result. He talks about the group representing the shirt in the best possible way for years, about competing not just being about winning, but about giving everything and never giving up, about it being an honour to be part of a group that defended these colours with pride, humility and commitment. Genuinely, those are his words. The man who is known for being the most racist player of the current history. The man who said, "English people are nice, they do the cleaning for me." One outlet's actual headline on this was, and I'm not making this up, "He did not apologise." That's not me being harsh. That's the press's own read on it. Cristian Romero posted too. This time, it just wasn't meant to be. And believe me, it hurts. It hurts deeply, because no one wanted to keep writing this beautiful story more than we did. He said beautiful story, about a match where his own teammates were grabbing opposition players by the throat after the final whistle. Even Scaloni, the manager, the actual adult in the room, who was out there physically trying to pull his own players apart during the brawl, his press conference line via ESPN was, "We are gracious in victory, and we must be so in defeat. We accept the loss, we gave everything." Gracious. He used the word gracious. On the same night, his own coaching staff had thrown a punch at an opponent. I don't know whether to laugh or scream. There is one member who actually did address it, and honestly, it might be worse than everyone who stayed silent. That's Roberto Ayala, the assistant coach. The staff member who punched a player after the brawl. To his credit, he didn't dodge it entirely. He went on Valencia Capital Radio and said he takes responsibility, that he rushed over trying to separate players and things just happen when your heart's racing. Then it comes this part. But it was all a reaction to something Olmo said. He's not just apologising, he's explaining it as provoked. And Dani Olmo, the man he actually hit, went to a Spanish paper days later and said it plainly. Someone who apologises while blaming the other person for what they supposedly said isn't really sorry, because that's a lie, and that he hadn't said anything to Ayala at all. So, The one Argentina figure who did try to address what happened got publicly called a liar by the man he punched within the same week. And here's what actually gets me the most. Compare all of that to how the other side behaved. Gavi, the 19-year-old Paredes physically threw to the ground, was asked afterwards if he thought Paredes should be suspended for it, and he said no, that he understood it was not a good look for kids watching, but that is also part of football. The kid who got manhandled on the pitch showed more grace about it publicly than the man who did it. And on Argentina's own side, you would think the only player who came out of that whole night with any credit at all was Messi, who was not even involved in the brawl. He just shook hands with every single Spanish player and sat on the grass in tears. But what people do not get is that Messi, as the captain, can and should stop their teammates from doing this barbaric acts. He has done it before, but since 2022, something has changed, and the Argentina culture just started running through his veins. So here's what you're actually left with once you line every single one of these statements up next to each other. Pride, honour, humility, gracious, beautiful story. Every single patriotic word in the book deployed by every single player involved, and in every single one of those posts, the actual violence that's currently sitting inside a formal FIFA investigation just doesn't exist. It's not mentioned, it's not addressed, it's not even hinted at. That's not an accident when it happens this consistently across this many different players. That's a strategy. So tell me in the comments, is this just what you say after a heartbreaking loss, or does it simply tell you everything you need to know about how sorry they actually are? Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for your support.